On this week's episode, we'll be talking with Sally McKenzie, a woman who has done everything: acting, directing, writing, and is the founder of the production company, The Coalface.
Also on today's show, we have a review of The Two Faces of January. You're watching Showreel.
Welcome once again to Showreel. I'm Matt Clayton.
And I'm Dave Rickard. We're joined today by a professional in the entertainment industry, Sally McKenzie. Sally is an actress, a director, writer, and currently runs and owns her own production company called The Coalface. We welcome you to Showreel, Sally.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Dave. Thank you, Matt.
Firstly, can I ask you what inspired you when you were a teenager to pursue a career in the arts?
Yes, indeed, I was a teenager. In fact, I was about 11. I started acting classes, and then, I don't know, I could say something very spiritual, like I need to tell stories, but I suspect it was more from I wanted to show off. And so I went into NIDA as an acting student and came out the other side as an acting professional, worked in the industry for a number of years and still do. But I find acting, the life of a jobbing actor, is actually quite tricky, and you're very disempowered unless you're on the A-list, and even the A-list is diminishing these days. More latterly, I've moved into writing and directing and producing, and that's not an easy trajectory either, but I went back to uni, did my master's degree in writing, directing, and yeah, here I am.
So now you write, direct and produce your own documentaries, and you've done one recently about the acting class you were in. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, just to get that right, that's the other one that I did that a while ago, the one about my acting year. It's called the Acting Class of 1977.com because it is actually contextualised as though I am accessing the website of my year, or the 3 years, what you call it. So I'm accessing a website called the Acting Class of 1977.com, and with me you click through the various activity areas and pages, and then that's how we go through first year, second year, third year, and the industry beyond. So it looks at the actor training that was around in the 70s at the major acting school in Australia, the people that went there through my year, and the industry they entered goes into it.
When you did your acting training, you were there with some big names now. Are they, at the time, because you were with Mel Gibson, was there any clue that he was going to be a massive star?
I guess not really, because we were the acting training that we had was all to do about unpacking yourself emotionally and physically. It was the most exhausting and intense and exhilarating time of a lot of our lives, because it's not like a university course. You actually go in at, say 9 till 6 every day with the same group of people for 3 years, with the threat of being kicked out at the end of each year. So there was a lot of competition, there was a lot of doubt, there was a lot of insecurities, there was also a lot of passion. None of us had time to be thinking, oh, that person's going to be a star. And also a lot of our training was very much focused on theatre. If you can do theatre, you can do everything. It's quite clear that a lot of actors can't cross over from screen into stage, but most actors can go from stage to screen, because there's an internal process that goes on that it's your point of delivery. If you've got to deliver to 5,000 people, that's your point of delivery. If you've got to deliver to the camera, it's just there. That's how you shape your performance. So in terms of, was Mel going to be a star? I mean, we didn't realise that a lot of screen career was actually predicated on how you looked. And so if you had a kind of different look, if you were a character, that would make you a character actor in the screen. But if you had a very kind of action man, and the camera loved you, and you had a right role directly after we finished, because Mad Max 1 was filmed, of which I've got a brief part in, because I was visiting the boys in Melbourne when they were shooting it. In '78 it was filmed, so it was directly our first year out of NIDA. We didn't, and that kind of launched his career. Yeah. And Steve Bisley, who was in my year as well.
You mentioned that some people would get let go at the end of the year. Did you ever lose any friends that they're gone now?
Well, we started off with 28 and we finished with 15. So at the end of each year there was a culling. But I don't think they're allowed to do that anymore because it's more associated with a university. And as soon as they brought in, also we were part of the Whitlam years, we didn't have to pay for our education. In fact, I was on a scholarship. So I think it's all linked with HEX now, or HELP or whatever they call it, and you wouldn't be able to do that culling that they had. But yes, then at the end of first year it was hard to say goodbye to your colleagues, but that's just was part of the industry. The industry is very it's a difficult industry. It's no one's guaranteed of anything. It doesn't owe you anything.
So now you do more like directing and writing and producing. Did you want to do that when you started in the arts? Or
no. I found it disempowering as an actor. I did a lot of work. I've worked in Melbourne Theatre Company, I've worked Sydney, I've worked here. I've got 2 children and I'm based here. No, to be honest, I found it disempowering. Matt, so I took a side step from it. Doesn't mean I've stopped it. In fact, I've done, I will always act, but I wanted to be, I guess, perhaps more in terms of the creator. I think that actors sometimes they've been described as warm props. Of course, they're not warm props, but they have, there's, they're in the food chain, and even though they have to they are the face of the story, they're not the ultimate creator. And I enjoy writing, and I got quite a bit of assistance, but that's a difficult road as well. And the trajectory of my next film, which is a woman's deeper journey into sex, and a shorter version, which is called A Woman's Journey into Sex, came from a need to tell a story about female sexuality.
We actually have a short clip of acting class of 1977 that we can show.
Yeah, the teaser. Oh, that's
teaser.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
30 years since we all sang Hooray for Hollywood in our final show. I've been trying to log onto the site for days. Here we go. I'm on. The class, Steve Bisley. Disgusting photo of me. Judy Davis. Mel Gibson. There we all are. Deborah Lawrence. Mel's interview, uncut.
3 years? Yeah, I valued them. I did. I was exposed to things that I never, ever would have been exposed to otherwise. I could wear a dress at 19.
We're going to take a small break, but we'll be back shortly, so toilet breaks only.
Welcome back to Showreel. We're chatting with Sally McKenzie from the Coalface. Sally, we showed you a clip of acting class of 1977 before the break. Can you tell us a little bit about the clip?
It starts off with a grab from Mr. Gibson, and then it shows the stylistic of, it gives a sense of the narrative, the way it unfolds, the fact that we were actually watching somebody access pages on a website. It gives a sense of what the film's about. It's got grabs from some of the main key characters in it, and it gives us a sense of what we might expect.
And what started you on the journey to make that documentary? Was it somebody suggested, or did you just kind of think, what if I did this?
It seemed, like a lot of people are interested in making films, making screen product, and then naively go into it thinking that you can conquer the world, and of course it's not like that at all, and it takes an incredible amount of time to get any interest in anything. It seemed like a good commercial idea because of the Mel Gibson factor. And so that was the logic behind it. It was about something that I was intimate with. I had access, which is what documentaries you have to have access. But often, and when we get around to talking to my more recent film, when you talk about how ultimately, you might have one idea for the vision, and then what you end up with is something slightly different. And that was the case with this. It didn't occur to me that in the end that I would have this content and I had to find a narrative concept into which to put it. And I didn't want it just to be a series of talking heads, which it could have been. But I did have a lot of talking heads footage, which is interviews. It was, I found a way of telling the story of the acting class of 1977.com, which AKA is also known as acting class of 1977, because it can be a bit confusing. And yeah, I've forgotten what you asked me.
That's okay.
Well, so writing, directing, and producing. Do you like to do all of that because you like to have complete creative control over your own projects?
No, in a word, but I'll elaborate. I didn't start off to write, direct, produce. As you probably know, and if you continue the trajectory in this industry, you will find out that there are producers out there, but not many, and there's not many with the credits that you need. And they also have their own projects. So sometimes a lot of directors particularly end up producing out of necessity, and also, but yes, there is a bit of creative control to it. But hopefully you team up with somebody. Don't try this at home. I think it's just far too exhausting to do all the roles myself. When we talk about a woman's deeper journey, if I had that journey to take again, I certainly wouldn't want to do it by myself. And that includes travelling the world in order to get the research, which ended up being a lot of the footage. But it's not to do with creative control mostly. It's to do with necessity. It's to do with the fact that unless you're with like-minded people who are all on the same starting blocks, you all have different needs and different desires, and you're maybe at different points of projects. And really, you want a producer there that's actually on your project and on the case, and that sometimes just doesn't happen that way. In terms of which one I prefer the most, I mean, writing's different in a documentary sense, as you would know. So with both my documentaries, they have what you call like a high concept documentary, A Woman's Deeper Journey. We'll just call it that for the moment. But it started as a concept about women's sexuality, and I was assisted to go to the markets in Cannes. A lot of people know about the film festival in Cannes, but they don't realise that prior to the film festival in April, they have MIP TV, which is a markets in Cannes, and at the end of in October, after the festival, they have MIP Com, which are more markets. And so Screen Queensland have this great resource where people can apply to get some assistance to go to the markets to get some interest in their projects. And you have to take a number of projects over there, which I did. And it was fairly new to me, and some of my projects weren't working, but I was interested in a documentary. Actually, I was interested in a feature film I was kind of had in mind, or had done some work on, about women paying for sex, because men can and do and have always, and it seems so unfair that women do not have the same opportunity. So motivated by equality, and I pitched a documentary about women paying for sex, and of course it received a lot of interest, which it didn't ultimately transfer into monies from television companies, because we're right in the middle of the global financial crisis, and if you've got a project potentially about orangutans in Africa and women paying for sex, well, it's a no-brainer which one's going to get some interest. However, of course, they're financial interest. It doesn't mean it hasn't got a distributor. It has, both in Australia and overseas. It's with Icon here, and overseas it's with Off the Fence. And I made 2 versions of it, but ultimately there's a couple of ways of making films, as you're probably finding out. You can start off with the money, and that's great, or you can make it and then get some money to patch it together. And A Woman's Deeper Journey, aka A Woman's Deeper Journey into Sex, and A Woman's Journey into Sex, the shorter version, it were made in the second way. I started off with development, and I travelled the world. I went to various places like Jamaica all by myself to find characters for my documentary. I went to LA, I've been to Vegas, I've been to the UK, I went to a lot of places to try to find characters, and ultimately ended up with a lot of development footage, which were interviews with various characters, from gigolos to male prostitutes to women who pay for sex, to cougars, to a range of different aspects of female sexuality. And then I had to make this thing. I wasn't going to leave it alone. I'd been working on it for some significant time.
So did this give you a new appreciation of the role of producers after you did these documentaries?
I always knew it was tough. I always knew that producing was tough, because I suppose I've been working as an actor for so long. Yes, indeed, it does. And of course, we're talking about different areas of producing. I mean, if you just start on the starting blocks, well, then that's one producer. But if you've got several several credits to your name, that's a whole different ball game. Yeah, it's a tough gig.
Well, we're going to have to take another ad break, but we'll be back soon to talk to you some more. Stay tuned for more Showreel.
Welcome back to Showreel. We're still here with Sally McKenzie from the Coalface.
Hello.
Another question for you, Sally. What's a typical day in the life of you with your production company and the multiple things that you have going on?
Well, that would depend on what time of year, I guess it was, Dave. More recently, I also work as a playwright and a theatre producer and a theatre actor, etc. And one of my plays is on the Victorian syllabus for Year 12, so that involved a recent tour of that play into Years 12s in Victoria. So, as I say, it would depend on what day and what month. At the moment, I'm working on a feature, on the story outline for a feature film, but one can't get too carried away with that sort of thing because one realises how difficult the odds are, but if you don't try it, then you haven't got an opportunity. Another day I might be there, I might try to do some voiceover work because I work in that area as well. I have been mainly focusing on my more recent film project for a number of years, and so a typical day might also be looking at the possibility of getting SBS involved to when they're maybe looking at screening a woman's deeper journey into sex, which they will be. I'll find out when the screening dates are for that soon. So it's varied, but I would counsel people it's not a great money gig.
Yeah.
I think sort of people think working in the arts is a way to make a lot of money, then they're probably wrong.
So if you're not in it for the money, what's the most rewarding aspect of your career? Why do you do it?
I guess that creative element. I mean, and I guess that's rather egotistical, really. It's, creating is rather egotistical. If you're a painter, a visual artist, people can see that more clearly, because you can pick up whatever the medium that you're working in, and then you can do it, and then you've got something. When you work in filmmaking area, it's harder because you can, the processes are so truncated and prolonged, and the development stages and the productions, the pre-production, post-production, production stages, etc. And that's why I think a lot of filmmakers get frustrated and just say, oh, well, I'm just going to do it anyway. It has its frustrations, and I have to remind myself of some of the times that I was involved in developing my latest film and try to get it up. It's just it's not for the faint-hearted sometimes, you'd have to say. So
you're a member of the Australian Directors Guild.
Yes, indeed.
And you're in fact the Queensland representative, according to their website.
So the Australian Directors Guild, which has its national office in Sydney, is the peak body that represents screen directors, and that's across boards in terms of screen product, from features to TV to games to any particular medium, and it looks after their contractual areas. So it's in terms of the conditions that screen directors work under. It also works as a body that represents key directors from Baz Luhrmann to Peter Weir to Gillian Armstrong, etc. It kind of supports the work of screen directors towards excellence. It is a industry body in terms of it, as I say, in terms of governance, of contractual areas, but also works as, say, the ACS does in terms of a body to go to when you have there's areas that affect screen directors.
In a short answer, why should a young up-and-coming director join the Australian Directors Guild?
In a short answer, also up-and-coming producers, because ADG, Australian Directors Guild, which is admin at adg.org.au, so it's org, not com. So they should join because they want a go-to place if there's an industrial problem, if they have contractual issues. They should also have a sense of a belonging to a group of people that have like-minded outcomes and interests, who just, love the culture of screen. Here in Queensland, we're looking to do, through Screen Queensland, a series of local events that involve promoting both film as a culture, but also the how-to of film, and looking at several filmmakers coming up from down south and having Q&As with them and them presenting their films. It's like anything. You want to be part of a club because you want to feel part, that's what you do, and you want to be with like-minded people. So there's no short answer, I'm afraid.
Excellent. Well, now we will segue to our review segment of the show. This week's film is The Two Faces of January. Here it is.
The Two Faces of January is a 2014 American thriller film based on the book of the same name by late American author Patricia Highsmith, who also wrote Strangers on a Train and The Talented Mr. Ripley. The title, The Two Faces of January, is an allusion to the literally two-faced Roman god Janus, who the month of January is named after. However, that's irrelevant to the story because the film is set in Greece and Turkey and in an unknown month in 1962. It stars Aragorn as a holidaying rich American who displays his wealth by wearing an expensive white suit around the dirty hot sands of Athens. He's married to the much younger, but not so much younger it looks creepy, Mary Jane Watson. They meet American tour guide and casual con man Llewyn Davies, who you know right away is going to steal Aragorn's wife. Things get crazy when it turns out that Aragorn is also a con artist and he accidentally kills a private detective sent to track him down. Llewyn Davies is sucked into the couple's attempt to escape back to America while evading police and evading PIs and not at all evading whiskey. However, Aragorn soon becomes convinced that the most imminent threat is Llewyn Davies' suspicious friendship with Mary Jane and his much more appropriate age. The film is written and directed by Hossein Amini, who people might know as the writer of the acclaimed film Drive and the Academy Award-nominated writer of The Wings of the Dove. Although he also did write Snow White and the Huntsman and 47 Ronin. Thing is, this one's good. The characters are interesting and flawed. None of the characters is the main protagonist. They are all neurotic, and you're never sure whether to like them or hate them. They feel real and not at all like Hollywood archetypes. They have real human flaws, like the tour guide that's not that great at his job.
Isn't it? It was here, on the Acropolis Hill, that some believe Theseus' father, King Aegeus, looked out to sea, waiting for his son to return.
Nope, it was Cape Sunion, about 70 kilometres south of Athens, but good try. First-time director Amini has done an excellent job with the film. The film wasn't bad at all, but ultimately not that memorable either. It looks good, it sounds good, and the acting's good. It maybe could have done with an epic fantasy battle, some upside-down kissing, or a cat, but it's still worth a look. 3.5 stars out of 5.
You should have killed me when you had the chance.
Now look at you, a real criminal.
That's a wrap from us here at Showreel. Thank you very much for joining us today, Sally.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great.
Be sure to check out our Facebook, Twitter and YouTube pages and the Showreel podcast on iTunes.
And a massive thank you to everyone who donated to our Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign. You'll receive your perks soon. See you all next week for more Showreel.